It is Sunday, June 1st, and new polling has dropped, delivering a dose of reality to the Dem Party. These numbers are so bad, so awful. You have to go back 40, 50 years to even see something similar. Some of these questions, there's no comparison. We're talking the worst numbers in polling history. We're going to show you also Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, a real rock star, setting the record straight on inflation, doing the Sunday morning shows today and delivering a smackdown to CBS News' Margaret Brennan. You're going to want to see that. We'll watch it together, and more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates.
What do you make of for the Democrats, we've seen bad poll after bad poll, yet another bad poll. And somewhat this is apathy among their own voters who just don't think their party's getting it done.
So Trump's been back in the White House for 130 days. And in that time, he has completely remade the political landscape, redrawing the political lines completely. Go back 8 years. Oh, how different things were. Today, you can't find a young guy who was open and proud to be a Democrat. 8 years ago, it was the complete reverse. Even hinting you may be a Trump supporter could be the end of your friendships, your career. Don't even dare wear a red hat in public, even if it didn't say MAGA on it. Just a red hat could get you spit on and harassed. How things have changed. Brand new polling released this weekend showing the Democrat Party is effectively obsolete. These numbers are terrible, abysmal. Even their own voters who are diehard Democrats, are abandoning them. The spread today between which party Dems believe is the more competent party has grown by like 50 points. A 50-point spread by Democrats who believe Trump and Republicans are the more productive, the more competent, the more get things done party. Watch.
And this morning, we have a brand new CNN poll that shows what voters are thinking about both parties. David Chalian joins me here at the Magic Wall to take us through this poll. So, David, what are the key takeaways?
Yeah, this is where we left off on election night 2024, but we wanted to get a sense of where Americans are right now. And one key trend we're looking at here, Manu, is should the government do more, or is the government trying to do too much? 58% in our new poll of Americans now say the government should do more. That is a 30-year high that we have seen. So what's driving that? Why are so many fewer Americans saying that the government is trying to do too much? Well, as you might imagine, we're seeing that movement among Republicans who are in charge of all aspects of government right now. Look at this huge drop. From August of 23, 73% of Republicans said the government was doing too much. That was when Joe Biden was president. Now it's down to 57%. But we also see this decrease in those saying government's doing too much among independents as well. We also wanted to test where the country stood with the parties on various issues, okay? Crime and policing is by far and away the Republicans' best advantage. R plus 13 now, R plus 14 a couple years ago. But look at the economy and immigration, two key Trump issues. You see, it's still a Republican advantage, but you see that advantage is narrowing on both of those key issues. This gets to what Amy was saying, I think, about some of the anxiety people have about the economy over the tariffs that we were talking about. A dead tie on world affairs, and where the Democrats have the edge, education, abortion, and climate change. We also took a look at some key attributes. This is how Americans sort of see the parties. Which party is better described as the party with strong leaders? Look at this.
Wow.
16% of Americans say Democrats, 40% say that of the Republican Party. Now, overall, no party's doing great. Lots of Americans say neither of these qualities apply to either party. But look at how much worse off the Democrats are. A party that gets things done. Only 19% of Americans say that about the Democrats. 36% say it about the Republicans. In fact, the only place that the Democrats are numerically ahead, party of the middle class, this is basically a tie, though. 34% say that of Democrats, 32% say that of Republicans. But this, I think, is the most fascinating. How do partisans talk about their own party? Right? So among Democrats and Democratic leaners, 32% say Democrats are the party with strong leaders. I mean, of their own kind, right? 82% of Republican leaders say that about the GOP. Only 41% of Democrats say they're the party that gets things done of their own kind. And I will just say, 51%, Manu, a majority of Democratic and Democratic leaners say neither party gets the party that gets things done attribute. Imagine that's the project that Democrats are working on.
Yeah, and beyond the issues here.
And it gets even worse. This morning, another Democrat announcing they are leaving the party, dropping the D from their party affiliation and joining the Republican ranks. Kentucky Democrat Robin Webb making the announcement saying, "I no longer feel the party represents my values. The Democrat Party has become untenable and counterproductive to the best interests of my constituents." And look, there's more happening here than meets the eye. This is the reason we saw them turn to lawfare over the last 8 years, why they're doing everything in their power to stop Trump and Doge from uncovering the corruption in government, because they have an unsellable ideology. In our system, when our systems ran fairly, each party has to sell their agenda, sell their vision for the country. That's how a two-party system works. Well, when you have an idealistic agenda that's so unpopular, whose beliefs are like 10 to 20% in support, men and women's sports, open borders, defunding the police, a political party that's committed to raising taxes on everybody, it's an unwinnable political message. They need to be corrupt in order to win. So if Trump can deliver and root out the remaining corruption, accomplish these reforms to just have a free and fair system, the Dems are 100% doomed. They cannot compete in a fair system. And look, with Trump running 3 times for president, we have a very unique opportunity to see the shifts over the last 8 to 10 years in national support. And it's clear as day, the country continues to move in Trump and Republicans' directions. There's no question about it. Democrats, they have a real, genuine structural problem. Watch.
There's some structural problems with the Democrats as well.
There are. And again, this is where we ended up on election night in 2024. This is by county. Obviously, these were the results. But what I want to show you on this next map is we have this amazing opportunity. Donald Trump, a candidate 3 times in a row, to look at those 3 successive elections and take a look here among the shifts that we saw across the country. Everywhere you see red here is a place that Donald Trump improved his performance from 16 to 20 to 24. Now, he lost some of these counties. He didn't win all of them. But you see how much more red there is than blue. Places where, Clinton did better than Obama, Biden did better than Clinton, and Harris improved on that. Far fewer places in America than when Donald Trump increased his vote share over those 3 successive presidential elections, Manu.
Yeah, there's a lot to chew on there. David Chalian and is joined, and then my panel is back here as well. Amy, what do you make of for the Democrats, we've seen bad poll after bad poll, yet another bad poll, and somewhat this is apathy among their own voters who just don't think their party's getting it done.
Yeah. Now, listen, some of this is a hangover from the frustrations of the last 2 elections. And the frustration about Biden, right, that he really was not present.
In another story, the Labor Department releasing the latest slew of econ data this week. In it, inflation falling to a new 4-year low, falling back to 2.1% annualized. In economic speak, that's a perfect number. It's exactly where the Federal Reserve wants it.
Some new numbers on inflation. This is the Fed's go-to inflation metric. And we really got good news on that front. Month over month, prices were up just barely 0.1%. At an annual rate, 2.1%. That is a 7-month low. And it's basically right where the Fed wants it, right? Normally, they want that 2%. They're just above that. Normally, I think you'd have some celebration.
And instead of legacy media presenting this news fairly, calling a spade, admitting, yes, this is great news for the American people, corporate media continuing to fearmonger, saying, yes, inflation's down, but stock up on products now while you can, because there's gonna be less inventory. There will be inventory shortages, and prices will be going up because of Trump's tariffs. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, probably the best Treasury Secretary we've ever had, bar none, compared to Janet Yellen especially. This guy's a rock star, doing the morning shows this morning and setting the record straight, striking down CBS News' Margaret Brennan, who again decided to spin these inflation numbers into a bad thing, warning the audience about inventory shortages that are likely coming because of tariffs. Bessent saying, how about you just report what's actually happening instead of what you think will happen.
We wanted to make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret, and thus far there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist. That the inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right.
We've
seen... you listen to earnings calls just like we do. Mm-hmm. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
But Margaret, I also know what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. I know what the South China Morning Post wrote within the past 24 hours, that 65% of the tariffs will likely be eaten by the Chinese producers.
The reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
When we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
Meanwhile, gold breaking right through its all-time high this week, busting right through 3,400 an ounce for the first time ever, and now trading well above the $3,300 an ounce mark. The GDXJ index hitting a 12-year high. Silver hitting $34 an ounce, a 12-year high as well recently. This is a monumental milestone. The momentum for gold and silver since Trump's election win is just remarkable. Goldman Sachs now calling $4,000 gold by mid-2026. And look, I love that gold's trading at an all-time high in multiple currencies. There's just so much happening. The SLV ETF, which tracks the price of silver, has now also hit a 12-year high. Wall Street investment banks, even bolder than I am about the future of gold under the Trump administration. JP Morgan forecasting the price of gold will cross $4,000 an ounce by Q2 2026. And this happens with every new administration, depending on their policies, their economic policies, their tax policy, regulatory changes. It acts as a forcing function in markets. Certain sectors do better while others suffer. Under Biden, we saw big tech, big business, Wall Street, the banks do remarkably well. All the money the Biden administration was printing, just artificially boosting markets. The Trump administration, on the other hand, reining in federal spending, balancing our budget, cutting the deficit, cutting taxes and regulation means more money for Main Street, a massive shift from Wall Street to Main Street. When that happens, you see a run for safety, like we're seeing with gold and silver. All right, that wraps up the news portion of this video. Now let me tell you about the sponsor for today, Argenta Silver. You can see their ticker on the screen. So 5 years after bottoming in the March 2020 market panic, silver has surged by more than 160%, which is the primary reason I'm highlighting Argenta Silver's business model today. One of Argentina's most prominent businessmen, Mr. Eduardo Elstein, with a great track record in mining, just invested 5 million Canadian in Argenta Silver. And with billionaire mining magnate Frank Giustra calling this project a vehicle to fulfill a 40-year dream of his to scale a pure-play silver company, I am featuring it to you. Eduardo Elstein saying, I am excited to join Argenta as a shareholder. I look forward to supporting both Argenta's growth with this exceptional project and the country's outstanding future. Eduardo joining Frank Giustra, a major shareholder of Argenta Silver. Frank Giustra recently increasing his ownership stake in Argenta to 13.5% following the purchase of 2.5 million common shares of the company in the open market. Here's what he said. My decision to increase my holdings in Argenta reflects my strong belief in the company's vision to unlock the value of high-potential silver assets and its disciplined approach to exploration. Argenta owns 100% of the El Quevar project, located in Salta, Argentina. The project hosts an indicated resource of 45.3 million ounces of silver and an inferred resource of 4.1 million ounces, making it one of Argentina's top 3 undeveloped silver deposits. So I leave you with this. Argenta Silver's market cap, $41 million USD, 7.8 million in working capital. The acquisition of the project was done at a fraction of that value with a $3.5 million acquisition cost. Think about that. Against over an estimated $60 million Canadian in historical investment by the previous owners, including 100,000 meters of drilling. Listen to that one more time. El Quevar, the El Quevar project, acquired for $3.5 million after the previous owners already discovered the 3rd largest undeveloped pure silver resource in Argentina and spent 60 million Canadian to develop it. And they bought it for only $3.5 million. Do your homework on Argenta Silver. This is a pure play silver project in Argentina. Research Argenta Silver. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.